Thank you for listening to The Scene. And thanks to our sponsors, Elite Feeds in Tyndall, South Dakota, Monk's Ale House, Breno Construction, Hummingbird Guitar, Chris Hay Grinding, Tyndall Motors, Kathmandu Campground, Frank's Trading Post, and Team Pluto. Thank you to our sponsors for making The Scene and with it our dreams possible. Remember to go support them and tell them you heard it on The Scene. Welcome into another exciting episode of The Scene. I'm your host, Bubba Starts, and with me today, one-man band, Joshua Sinclair. How are you, Josh?
It's good to be on, Bubba. It's good to be on, man.
This is cool, dude. This is cool. So, we haven't met in person. I know that we are both MCMO members, but why don't, for myself and all of our listeners, why don't you tell us a little about who is Joshua Sinclair?
Well, like you said, one-man band kind of thing. I do a lot of live looping at my shows. Yeah, dude, I love to write. I love to perform. I've been doing it for over 20 years professionally. And yeah, it's just so close to my heart. Like, it's not like what I do, it's who I am. So I just absolutely love every aspect of it. And, and I love that I can still continue to write and still have ideas. And I always feel like, as long as we're living, like, we're always gonna, get new ideas, and this new album, White Trash Recipes, is no different. It's it's records that come together, songs that come together based off of like my life and the people that I meet in it.
Yeah, brother, the stories is
Absolutely
what we're doing. It's what music has always been, time immemorial, right? That's how we communicate with the heart, and I love having this show because I get to connect with other people that are like me, because that's what my music is writing about. I'm not a person that's like, oh, I have to write a song. I write the song when the song says it needs to be written.
Right.
Like, I'm not writing these things. They're coming from somewhere. Now, I think there is and you can maybe speak to a little bit of this, because I know we talked before the show that you've been on labels and things like that, but I think there is something to being in rooms with people with a collective vision of, we're going to write a song and we're going to try to tap into that, right? We're not coming in with a preconceived notion. It's like, let's just hang out and maybe create it in that writer's room or whatever. I've never been a part of that. Have you ever been a part of something like that?
A couple times. So you kind of touched on, being signed with some labels and stuff. I was signed with a couple labels out in New York City with my brother. He was on drums. I was the lead singer, guitars and stuff. So we worked with a producer with Universal Records back in like it was probably like 2007 or 2008 or so. And the whole concept was to write new songs. Like, they loved what we were doing, but they wanted to see what we could do with one of their producers. And the whole thing with that was it was the first time that I'd ever actually like written with anybody else, because it's such an intimate thing. It's such a you have to trust the people that you're working with and writing with, because it's so personal, and you can't take offense to, like, oh, we want to change this, we want to do this. So it's the person that they put us with. Like, I mean, he changed my life. Like, his direction as far as like being a producer was invaluable to me, just because he gave me the keys for everything that I've done since, as far as songwriting and production and stuff, like in the studio. And he really just, like, his whole concept and his whole basis was just to keep us on the rails. He's like, there's nothing wrong. Like, just do what you do, come up with your ideas. And, if it's getting too far this way or too far that way, I'll just bring it back in, like a little train and stuff. So it was awesome. Like, I loved working with him. And again, like I said, it gave me the keys to be able to kind of understand and know, like, how to do that in the future. And so I'd throw it back to him every single time that, he just he helped me along the way, and it's helped me form these songs and these concepts throughout the years. And I mean, I think you kind of touched on it a few minutes ago about, like, we don't just sit down to write just to write. Like, it comes to you in waves and in little pieces and bits. And like, I have so many voice memos and all kinds of shit and stuff that I keep together, and then go and like look at it at the end of the year when I have a chance to write, because it's, when you're doing almost 200 shows a year, it's hard to like sit down and just be like, okay, I'm gonna write, but it's also like, flexing that muscle that, you got to use it or you're gonna lose it. So It's a lot of that stuff, man. But I just, yeah, we kind of touched on the humor part of it too. Like I think just, if you can get people engaged, whether it be through humor or through, I used to be and I still do, I write sad songs every once in a while, but if you can engage people through real life experiences, it's just, it's a way better experience, like to have them just really just, I don't know, just kind of falling off every word that you're singing. I mean, I think that's why we do it, because I mean, there'll be times, there'll be nights when it's not hitting like that, but then there's nights that it are. And man, it's amazing.
Yeah. The connection, relatability. I think
Mm-hmm.
bringing humor to life, right? What is
Yes.
life but to laugh, right?
Yeah, exactly, man.
I spent a little time stamp on this episode. Yesterday was Mother's Day.
Yep.
And the laughs and smiles and all the good times that we had celebrating, my wife and our kids and her mom. It's her mom's birthday today, actually. And
Cool.
my mother-in-law, Cindy, shout out to you, Cindy. Happy birthday today.
Happy birthday to you.
Yo, little Josh Sinclair, happy birthday song. See how lucky you are, Cindy? Yeah, man. So it laughter and joy and all of those. I mean, that's what we're trying to do. Because
Yeah.
I think even when we write a sad song, we're trying to we're writing the light at the end of the tunnel, right? Like even though you're in the midst of it, you're not writing the song to remain sad. You're writing to get that feeling out of you, right? And this is what made me feel like that and all of that, and pour it onto the page. And if that happens to connect with other people, how awesome. How just the completion of the human experience, right? I felt this, it touched me in this way, I made this, now I give this to you, and it makes you feel that way. And maybe they're not even the same feelings that we're getting, right? I'm not necessarily trying to make you feel how I felt when I wrote that, but I'm trying to give you some depth and something behind your experience, right? That's all we're trying to do with music. So yeah, I appreciate talking with guys like yourself who are that into it like I am. And not that I think all songwriters are. It's impossible not to be. So yeah, what a joy for me to have this little show now, to have an excuse to talk to everybody about it. It's inspiring is what it is.
And you were talking about it too. It's everybody relates to songs in different ways and stuff. And that's what I think the cool thing is. You might go into it with like a preconceived notion of like, this is what I'm writing it about, but like everybody's going to take a piece of that and relate it to their lives. And that's what I love about it, is because, I mean, it's happened to me multiple times. I mean, I wrote a song years ago that was about a girl, I'm just like, oh man, this girl's hot, blah, blah, blah. But the sentimentality of it, a friend of mine passed away like a couple years after that in a car accident. And it meant so much to their family that they asked like my brother and I to play it at her funeral. And as I was playing that song at her funeral, like the words that I'd written for this completely other like, aspect, they made absolute sense for that moment, like absolute sense. It was crazy. So ever since then, like it takes me back to that moment. And I don't know if it's the same with you, but like when you write a song, sometimes like it brings you back to why you wrote that song. And like you kind of revisit those emotions and those, I don't know, those things that you're going through when you play the song. And yeah, dude, it's crazy. I mean, but it runs the gamut though too. Like I wrote a song on this new record about a couple good friends of mine. They got married on this big bike ride across Iowa called Rag Ride, and the local paper did an article about them, and they put their vows in. At the end of the vows, it said they were quoted as saying, "We love Jesus, but we like to party." And I'm like, oh man, that'd make a hell of a song. So I took that concept and wrote a song just kind of based on like my upbringing, and called "I Love Jesus, but I Like to Party." But same kind of premise and stuff. So it's like, not only do people get that from songs, but songwriters get that from everyday life and the people that they meet, where they relate to things in a different way.
It's really cool getting to do what we do, huh?
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
Absolutely, man. It's just it's very freeing. Like I feel like if I didn't have songwriting as an outlet, I don't know, like it's like I've needed it through so many parts of my life, like good parts, bad parts. Like it's just it's always been there for me, and I don't know like what my outlet would be without having songs and songwriting and music in general.
Yep, same. It's funny, I just got off a phone call with my friend Dan Smith, Shout out to Dan. And he's a booker promoter, and I was joking about how many parallels in our life that there are, because I kind of do a lot of that with DBS Entertainment here in the Sioux Falls area and around, and I'm having the same experience with you now too as a songwriter. It's just tripping me out where you're literally just taking all the words in my head and saying them yourself, and all those feelings. And that's what's happening so much on this show, right? Like this podcast has been unreal because I'm having this similar experience with y'all. Every interview, I'm just like, yeah, man, totally relate. All
That's
the
awesome,
things.
man.
Yeah. It's so fun, man, to know that we're out there. Right.
Yeah.
And then to have a vessel to talk about new releases and just getting to know you. That's so much about what people crave now is we want to know you. That's why social media is so big, and the people that are on there all the time and sharing all the intimate parts of their lives. That's why they are exploding in that, going viral, because that's the connection that people are craving. And to be able to do it at scale is pretty incredible. We have over 1,000 plays in Finland right now on our song Triple Fine, right?
That's awesome,
I don't check
man.
the numbers on that stuff, right? We're just so early in we're in our career, early in that part of our careers, and I'm doing so much other stuff, Josh. Like, I'm not paying attention to those numbers. I don't care. It's out there. If people want to listen to it, great, but tuning into my Spotify for artists the other day, I was like, 1,200 plays in Finland. I don't know
That's
who
awesome,
y'all are, man, but thank you. You know?
And you just never know like who you're going to touch, and that's the things is like when you put something out there, you just don't know who it's going to like fall into the laps of or who it's going to touch. And it's such a neat thing, man. It's especially like you said, like with social media, that's like back when, back in the, 2005, 2006, 2007 time, like when I was really hitting it with, labels and touring and stuff, like on that part of it, before I really got into country music, it wasn't like that. It wasn't I think there was MySpace was just kind of coming out and stuff. And, but other than that, it was really like just, you kind of had to go and see that artist or whatever to really have like establish any kind of relationship with them. But now it is like, it's a way to like really just engage with everybody and stuff across the globe. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's incredible. And actually and I don't think she really gets enough credit for it. She gets plenty of credit, don't worry. But Taylor Swift was huge on MySpace when she was a teenager, before she got signed. She was engaging with all of these fans and doing all of those things early on that ended up becoming the stories for the songs that she's writing. You know what I mean? And then she's telling stories that nobody else in history has really tapped into, telling the teenage girl story. Now I have a 7-year-old daughter. She is singing her songs off of Red. Alyssa Kaiser, good friend of ours, friend of the show, an artist that lives here in South Dakota. We've had her on. Biggest inspiration, Taylor Swift. Heard her song, I don't remember which one it was, but changed my life. I said I could do that. And it's like you're seeing this explosion, especially of female artists, right? Because their stories historically have not been told. So there's this blank canvas right now of all of these stories, and it's amazing. I am just in love with it. I can't get enough of supporting all these women out there and women of all ages telling their stories. And it's been a real joy for me to have a vessel and a platform to put all these stories out there. It's just too cool,
man.
Yeah.
And I mean, I love Taylor Swift. Like I still cover a couple of her songs at shows, and I went through a divorce back in like it was 2016, I believe, and I didn't listen to a lot of Taylor back then, but Ryan Adams had done like a cover of her 1989 album, and I was a big Ryan Adams fan, so man, I listened to that record front and back, like for months, like going through this time in my life, and again, it's like one of those things like where those words like they just mean so much, and it. I don't know. It helped me get through like those tough times and stuff. And, a lot of I think a lot of music is therapeutic in a way too.
Yeah. Well, and think about exactly that. That's why she's selling out stadiums all summer long, right?
Yeah.
But delivering on everything. Like, seriously, if she's not an inspiration to you, if there are any Taylor Swift haters listening to this show, you can shut us off right now, because you should have nothing but respect for that woman and what she has done to change the face of not just music, but culture and all of it. And she's never, because she's a pop star, she's never going to get credit for being the songwriter that she is. She has written every single one of those. you know,
Yeah.
and I'm a little passionate about it. I follow her former manager, Rick Barker, and I encourage any musicians that are just getting started to go and check his social content out. You don't have to buy everybody's course or anything, but he's providing so much free value because they were on this tip in 2008. Right?
Yeah.
He was on it. He was, responsible for kind of forging and getting her into radio stations and doing that stuff. But his advice was, hey, dig into that MySpace thing. I think that's going somewhere, right?
Right.
And it's just continuing to do that, and you can find your fans and you can grow a fan base and do it. And look how many independent musicians there are out there doing what they want to do and telling the stories, and it's just an amazing time to be alive, for one, as a human, just in general, right? If you look at the world, I know it can be scary for a lot of people, but if you feel the love that's happening in our world right now, you'll know that it's a truly transformative period of human evolution right now. And then to be a musician inside of that, whose job it is to tell the stories of the time, it's so cool, man. Like, it's like being in the 60s and knowing you're in the 60s now, right? Like, that's the difference between now and back then, is like there was all that energy back then too, right? But not necessarily like knew that it was this revolution, where now I think there's such an awareness of everything and of our human history that we're in it. And I think we're riding the wave better than we ever have. And I think things are going to change, man. The next 10 years of just human existence are going to be a beautiful, beautiful thing. And yeah, I'm glad that I know guys like you that are going to be telling the stories.
Hey, right back at you, man.
Yeah, this is fun. So White Trash Recipes, tell me more.
Well, I got the concept. So a lot of the songs and the albums that I've written the last few years, a lot of it's just conceptually like coming up with the ideas for songs, and like we touched on humor. I mean, I have songs called Midol and Whiskey and Silicone and Wine and different things that have like stories behind them. But White Trash Recipes was a thing where I was just thinking back, some of the foods that we ate as kids, like ants on a log or whatever, like just stuff like that, where it wasn't necessarily like great food, but we can remember it when we think about it, and we can remember what it tasted like. And so I'm in a group chat with my girlfriend and her family, which they send like 30 messages a day. So I have to put it on mute and then just check at the end of the day, because it's just constantly going. But anyway, I'm like, oh, I should just put something on this group chat, with her family. And I'm like, hey, what are some of the foods that you guys ate, growing up that you remember, pizza rolls and stuff like that. So
shit on a shingle.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they said that too, but I'm like, well, I want to keep it PG, but yeah, so they gave me this whole list of stuff, and I pulled a few of them, and then, it was like things that I grew up, eating and stuff, but it was more meant to be like a gateway to nostalgia and those times of us growing up, and just not necessarily about the food, but about the moments. And so I put this song together, White Trash Recipes, which is the concept behind it for the food that we ate, but it's blanketed in the nostalgic feeling of being young, and then now being the age that I am now, and thinking back, I miss those days, growing up, and the stuff that we did, and the kids that we played with and stuff on our block and all that. So that is the whole concept for the record. So I just really, it encompasses the whole feel of the album, from, drinking songs to, barbecues and parties and summertime and addiction. There's a song I wrote about addiction with a good friend of mine that, lost pretty much everything in his life. And so it kind of just runs the gamut of just all those feelings and all those emotions, and but it ties it all together. And I actually did vinyl for this one too. So I mean, I think as a songwriter, sometimes that's your goal, is to have somebody listen to the album from front to back, all the way through, and not just track by track, or I like this track, cherry picking. Because I really love being able to listen to a record how it was meant to be. And so it's really, it's been great, man. And the reception I've gotten it's only just over a week and a half old, has been amazing.
That's cool, man. How'd you get it printed?
So I went through this company I've gone through for the last 5 or 6 albums, disc makers, and Yeah, it's the vinyl print, obviously takes a lot longer than CDs or anything like that and stuff. So that was kind of a thing because I'm like, I really want it to be out by the, beginning of summer. May 1st was my target date, and they got it to me before that. So yeah, I printed up a run. And the cool thing too is like if you actually buy the record, they gave me the option to, instead of just doing black vinyl, I could do like 5 or 6 different colors that it's just random, like the be blue, pink, red, yellow, purple, whatever. You just don't know what you're going to get till you open up the record. So that's kind of fun too.
Yeah, and helps them lower some of that stock they got of colored records.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll take it off of them, man. I
nice boy, right? Heck yeah.
When somebody buys a record, I'm like, oh, can you just open it just so I can see what color it is,
Yeah. Hey, that's cool, man. And then every, not one of ones necessarily, but one of few.
Yep.
That's awesome, man. I love the idea of vinyl. I just found this company that's in the Minneapolis area, I think, called Out of Wax.
Okay.
And they press their own vinyl, small company. So I'm digging into that, and it just opened my mind to, hey, maybe a vinyl record would be really cool, right? Because I just love the visceral, just everything about a vinyl, right? The fact that you can play it just on a needle, right? Just the science of vinyl is freaking cool. And I don't think we really give enough credence to that, right? I mean, put a little microphone. All that needle is a small microphone, and that vinyl is in that groove, and that music is printed on there. Not much different than a music box, right? I mean, that's essentially the science.
Yeah, I mean, it blew my mind, like just, like to actually have it in my hand and put it on the needle and like hear it, hear those scratches and stuff, and it's just cool. And then to have like I love having like a tangible thing to like to sell at shows or whatever. And to have that, like, because I grew up on like my parents' old vinyl collection and stuff, but to actually have like, your own vinyl with the artwork that you designed and all that stuff like in your hand it's pretty surreal, like to go back and think about that. Yeah,
it's awesome. So parents had a big record collection?
Yeah, my mom did. She was a big fan of like the Beatles and like gosh, man, Grand Funk Railroad, Paul Simon and Garfunkel, just so many different artists, Janis Joplin and stuff. Like I just remember listening to those records over and over and over and over again, and it was kind of cool. Like I had forgotten about that record collection because I didn't have a turntable until just about 3 years ago or so. And so I ended up finding that old vinyl collection, and I wrote a song actually when I found it because I spread them all over the floor. I'm like, I'm going to write a song about some of the influences I had growing up, off of this vinyl collection. And so I wrote this song on a couple of records ago called Hank that just kind of encompassed like, a lot of those artists that kind of molded who I was at that point in my life and stuff. So yeah, I love it, man. And it's, again, you can go back and look at the artwork and like read the liner notes, and it's just really fun, like to immerse yourself in that,
Right. Well, and that's kind of why the podcast to me was so important, because you don't have that anymore. You just have a single on Spotify and that's it, and a 5-sentence bio and a picture, and that's all you know about people. And I couldn't get all of this depth of Joshua Sinclair from a picture, or an email sent back and forth. We've corresponded a little bit. That doesn't let me know who you are. But geez, a 20-minute conversation sure teaches you a lot about a man.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I agree.
It shows you a person's heart, and that's what I really like to that's why the 15-20 minutes has always been a target. Do we go longer sometimes? Yeah, but it takes that long just to kind of get to know a person, right?
Yeah.
Just to kind of get a well-rounded vision of who Josh is, or who Dan is, or who anybody. We've had some great guests, man. I've done so many interviews. This podcast is like 8 weeks old. I don't even know if it's that old.
Well, I gotta tell you, Bubba, like I love the enthusiasm that you bring, because like I can sit and talk music and gear and songs forever, and I love the enthusiasm, and that's what I found that like with a lot of songwriters that have that same kind of thing. Like I can just sit down and talk to them, and you just feel like kindred spirits. You feel like that you've known them for years, and I think that's just such a neat thing because you're sharing your experiences about music, but it's coming from your own perspective, and then it comes together and you just have this excitement and enthusiasm. Like I love it, man.
Yeah. And I mean, I just love music, right? That's where it started. Yes. And we talked about an episode with our friend, Matt Beener. He said, Matt loves noise. And I was like, man, I think that's the name of our show. So that's what we ended up calling our review show Love Noise. to kind of leave that double entendre out there as well, right? Good marketing.
That's awesome.
But because it's so important. That's where we give you the song and then a little bit about the artist. But the same artists that we're having on the show also have long form interviews on the show, right? Like on the network. The scene is kind of becoming a network, and we're going to have shows underneath of that. It's all just kind of coming together organically, right? And it's only spreading. I'm not really out pushing it out. I don't have time to promote everything that I'm doing. So the fan base of the show is really just growing from like your biggest fans, right? You're kind of putting it out there to your people like, hey, listen to this interview. And then some of those people stick around and are in our world now too. And then our worlds are going to overlap. I'm sure you'll be coming out to South Dakota to play some shows for us. If not this year, very, very soon next year.
Yeah, man, I've got a Colorado run lined up next late May. So I'd love to like swing up your way and like, at least stop in and shoot the crap and maybe play some songs and stuff, man.
Heck yeah, buddy. We'll look at our schedule. We always got time and space for our friends, and it's really becoming a family, the scene and just everybody that I deal with, man. We are the same. We are kindred spirits, and there's so many people that I've gotten connected to in the last 2 months. It's just been an incredible run here, and I just getting to meet guys like you we would have never met if not for us kind of putting out who we are. Out into the world and just saying, hey, this is what we want to do. If you want to connect with us, get a hold of us. Here's our contact information. And we kind of put it out there, and the return on it has just been so incredible. And it's been a real pleasure getting to know you today, Josh. Anything you want to plug?
Yeah, you too, man. You too, man.
Anything you want to plug before I let you go?
If people are interested in checking out my music or videos or anything, I usually just direct them to my website because it has all my socials and all the links up there. It's just joshuasinclair.com. joshuasinclair.com. Super easy.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, Josh, I really appreciate your time today, and getting to know a little bit about you. I can't wait to maybe have a little bit longer conversation with you for one of our Sunday conversations here soon. I think that'd be fun.
I'd love to, man. I appreciate your time too, Bubba. And man, keep that enthusiasm going because it's infectious for sure, man.
Great. Well, that's good to hear. I appreciate you.
Right back at you, man.
Awesome. And for everybody else, make yourself part of the scene. Thank you for listening. Remember to go to patreon.com/thescenesd. Follow us on all your social media channels and make yourself part of the scene.